All right. So the SEC has been completely shaken up this year. A lot of departures, a lot of firings, and a lot of hirings and new additions. And 6 teams in the SEC so far have new coaches, which is pretty wild. That is a lot of turnover. It's a lot of moving pieces. A lot of coaches jumping ship to get in the SEC and to get their foot in the door. And in this video, I'm going to be going through my ranking for who I think made the best hire, who made the worst hire, and going to be ranking all 6 of these coaches from worst hire to best hire. This is just my opinion. This doesn't. This isn't fact. This is just what I believe. Who I believe made the best hire. Who I believe made the worst hire. It's not fact. It's just what I think. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy. All right. So jumping right in, we have at number 6, Arkansas's hire, Ryan Silverfield. I'm very sorry, Arkansas fans, but I don't think I'm the only one that views it this way. I think a lot of Arkansas fans are not very happy with this one. The rumor was originally that Alex Golesh from USF was going to go to Arkansas. Apparently there was a verbal deal in place. It hadn't been agreed upon yet, but they had a deal for him waiting. He was their first choice. Golesh, that was the rumor that it was going to be Golesh. But Auburn called the last minute. I think it was due to Jon Sumrall going to Florida, and Golesh ended up going to Auburn instead of Arkansas. And Arkansas was left with their second choice, which was the other American head coach, Ryan Silverfield. Ryan Silverfield was Memphis's head coach for 6 years. He went 50-24 there overall. He has 4 bowl wins, and he's currently sitting at 8-4. When you hear all of that, you might think, why is this guy 6th? Why is he not higher up on this list? Well, here's why. He's 12-20 against teams that finished 500 or below. So he's lost 20 times to teams who were below 500 or at 500 in terms of their record. That is a horrible stat. And all 6 years at Memphis. And Memphis, by the way, it's not a bum school. They do have some money. They do throw around some money for NIL collective. They throw around some money to build a decent roster. And he was able to do it a few times over there in Memphis, but he never made the American championship game. He doesn't even have an American championship under his belt, which is really bad when you're trying to make your case to go to the SEC. I don't believe even Arkansas was really excited about this hire. He wasn't their first hire. He wasn't their first choice. And it kind of just seems like they got stuck with him rather than actually pushed after him. And it's not even just him. He is in a really hard spot. Arkansas is one of the bottom teams in the SEC, especially with the merger with Oklahoma and Texas. They just keep getting pushed further down, and it is not an easy place to go and win at. It is not an easy place. You have to fight upward constantly at Arkansas, and he's in for a hard challenge. So anybody who took this job was going to have a really tough time trying to build them. But overall, Ryan Silverfield, my least favorite hire. Next up on this list is going to be Pete Golding over at Ole Miss. This one, honestly, it's kind of only here because of his inexperience and the fact that he hasn't been a head coach yet. He hasn't led a program yet. Inexperience in terms of head coach. He has a lot of experience in the defensive category. He started at UTSA as their defensive coordinator, and then he went over to Alabama, where he started as the co-defensive coordinator and then became the full-time offensive coordinator in 2019, and in 2020 Alabama won a national championship with him as their defensive coordinator. After that, in 2023, he joined Lane Kiffin over at Ole Miss as their primary defensive coordinator, and he led a really good defense over there. His defense set season records in sacks and in TFLs. He brings a lot of pressure. He's aggressive, and he's done well over there at Ole Miss, and the players love him. The players love Pete Golding over there. As with this whole Lane situation, it was really tough for Ole Miss fans and for players, and I believe that making this an inside hire and not bringing in somebody from the American Conference to or the American Conference, that's where all these guys were coming from, but from the American Conference or from a G5 school, wherever you were going to bring another guy from, at least with him, you get some stability back to Ole Miss. You don't have to reintroduce your whole roster to a new coach and try to get everything good again under one new guy. Instead, the players are already rallied behind Pete Golding. He will be their coach for the college football playoffs. They're already rallied around him, and with this Lane Kiffin situation, I feel like that's what these players needed. They needed a familiar face there. They needed somebody to lead them, somebody who's they're used to being led by. And overall, I mean, it is a good hire from Ole Miss. Again, like I said, I just think his inexperience as head coach, but also there were better options out there. I don't necessarily think he deserved the head coaching role. There were better options out there. They could have, if this whole Lane thing didn't drag on as long as it did, they could have maybe interviewed some of these guys. And honestly, I think they should have gone after Kentucky's guy, which we'll be going over here in a minute. But there are other guys out there that I think were better options and more deserving of the head coaching role. They just waited a little too long, and it's not really their fault. Lane kind of dragged the whole process out, but they just kind of ended up in a tough situation. And I think Pete Golding, with the current situation, is a good hire, but I think long-term overall, I don't see this being a fantastic hire for them. So next up, this hire is pretty new. It was just announced yesterday or today. This one is Kentucky's hire. Sitting at number 4 here, I have Will Stein, the Oregon offensive coordinator. I kind of like this hire from Kentucky. Kentucky fans were calling for him, and Kentucky answered. He was the OC over there at Oregon. It's kind of an outside the box hire. He wasn't a name that was thrown around too much in this search for a head coach in this process that we've gone through. But Kentucky, they made this one happen, and I do think this was a decent hire for them. He was over there at Oregon, where he had a top 10. He was top in the national rankings yearly so far at Oregon. So he's been there for 2 years now. He started over at UTSA. He's a young coaching prospect who's been getting a little bit of buzz as of late, but nothing too crazy. That's why I viewed this as kind of outside the box from Kentucky. He does run a very tight and a very good offense. Currently, he's second, or in his first year over at Oregon, he was second in scoring offense and in total offense in his first year. And then this year, currently, he's top 25 in both of those categories still, with the turnover from his roster last year. And he's averaging, right now, his offense is averaging 38 points a game and 465 yards a game, which I think is extremely impressive. They're putting up points every week, and Will Stein has definitely been at the helm of that. He has entire control over that offense over there. And another thing you cannot ignore with Will Stein, he has NFL pedigree. I'm going to put up a list here of all of the prospects that attended Oregon and were coached under Will Stein, and all of these guys have been drafted. He's got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 guys who have been in his offense that he has coached and worked with that have been drafted into the NFL, which I do think is very impressive. He clearly knows how to develop talent. He works with quarterbacks very well, and I think this was a pretty good hire over there. You go from Stoops, who's more of a traditional defensive guy, to Will Stein, who's more of a outside the box offensive thinker, which I think it ushers in a new era for Kentucky football. So next up, Number 3 on this list, I have Alex Golesh, the Auburn hire. Talked about him a little bit when I talked about Arkansas and Ryan Silverfield. This was Arkansas's original first choice. They wanted Golesh. He was a coveted target, so much so that he's kind of been a little lackadaisical with USF, which is maybe a little bit concerning. He's been kind of just talking and flirting with schools on the side, and the rumor is he's kind of been a little bit off of USF as of late. But regardless of that, I do think he has had a pretty solid coaching career so far. He was the OC at Tennessee in 2020, I believe. His offense was number 1 in the country at Tennessee, which obviously is very impressive. I know he has some help over there at Tennessee, but overall he was the primary offensive coordinator, and he was able to get them to the number 1 offense in the country. So clearly he knows what he's doing, and that's in the SEC as well. And then he took over for USF during their worst stretch ever. They were on a really, really downward trajectory, which I believe they only won 1 game the year before he took over. They finished 1-11, and immediately the turnover was there. He is very quick turnover. They went 7-6 the year directly after going 1-11 and taking over the program and starting anew. He was able to turn that program around very quickly, and then the next year he went 7-6 again, which is one of my criticisms of him, where he wasn't able to improve off of that 7-6 record. But then this year he comes out, USF is sitting at 9-2 with a couple games that were unnecessary losses there. Definitely, in my opinion, with USF's schedule and the way that they were playing this year, they should be undefeated. But like I said, he was kind of flirting with job offers on the side, and it just seemed like he wasn't all in there at USF anymore. And USF fans are actually kind of, from what I've seen, are kind of angry about his departure. But yeah, I mean, I do think for Auburn specifically, this hire of it makes a lot of sense. I don't really question his offensive ability too much. I've seen some reports saying it's kind of a simplistic offense, like a Josh Heupel style offense. Regardless of if that's true or not, it's light years ahead of whatever Hugh Freeze was doing over there. It was awful. And if he can even get that offense performing at a decent level, I think the defense is pretty stable over there. I think that they should retain their defensive coordinator, DJ Durkin. And Alex Golesh was asked about this in his press conference, his introductory conference, and he kind of just gave it a coach answer, like, I'm not sure, we'll have to evaluate things. I think they absolutely should keep him. He was the interim head coach. He only allowed 20 points a game this year from the defensive standpoint. The defensive guys love him over there. He took over in a pretty rough time as the interim head coach and gave Alabama a run for their money in the Iron Bowl. But I think he should be retained. If you're able to retain him, then I don't think you have to worry about Golesh too much. He just let him run his offense and let Durkin run his defense. And Golesh, pretty proven. He's got three straight bowl game appearances over there at USF. Like I said, coming off of some of their worst years of football, and his offense is currently averaging 43 points a game, in which he also recruited Byram Brown, their quarterback, who has passed for 3,000 yards and rushed for 1,000 yards. And like the Auburn AD was saying, if you put that in perspective, only 12 players have ever done that. And you can kind of credit that a lot, obviously, to Byram Brown because he's the one doing it. But Golesh is the play caller of that offense. He is the developer of Byram Brown. He is the one that convinced him to come there. And I do think that is a very impressive thing that he was able to do there, able to coach a player like that and to get that guy playing at the level that he was playing at. And I think, he's been coaching for 20 years now. He's 41 years old. He started when he was 21 as a grad assistant. He's worked up the ranks. I think he's ready for an SEC role. The only question would be, will his offense translate to the SEC? So number 2 here, I have Jon Sumrall for the Gators. Again, this is probably biased. I've made a whole video on this already, Jon Sumrall specifically. If you want to check that out, it will be in the suggested videos here. But Jon Sumrall, I really like this. I really like this hire. I kind of had to talk myself into it a little bit as a Gator fan after losing out on Lane Kiffin. A lot of Gator fans, expectations were very high, hoping to land Lane Kiffin. Turned out Lane Kiffin just didn't like Scott Strickland, which is something I guess we kind of underestimated. But yeah, Jon Sumrall ends up signing instead. If Lane Kiffin wasn't in this cycle, Jon Sumrall would have been the most sought after head coach of this cycle. Sumrall had a 41-11 record at Troy and Tulane. He's only been a head coach for 4 seasons, but he has the highest win percentage, or top 5 in win percentage in the country currently. He's been good everywhere in both spots that he's been so far. He's nasty, he's fiery, he's physical. He is an embodiment of football in my mind. He's a little bit crazy when he's out there, and I like that. It's the physical mindset that we needed to bring back to Florida. I am a Florida fan, by the way, if that isn't apparent yet. He's got 2 consecutive Sun Belt titles at Troy. There are a lot of Billy Napier comparisons here, which I think are unfair. Really, where his comparison stops with Napier is that he's a G5, or he's a Sun Belt coach, a winning Sun Belt coach that Florida hired from Louisiana, which it's kind of strange that that both coaches come from Louisiana, but their mentality, their mindset, their scheme, what they specialize in could not be more different. Jon Sumrall is a nasty defensive coach. And then Billy Napier was more of a trick play offensive kind of guy who just didn't work in the SEC. Sumrall, I think his mentality is more suited for the SEC. The report is that he builds his rosters like an SEC school. He has that mentality, and I think he's more than ready to be in the SEC. His mindset, at least, is on that level. He has the mindset of an SEC coach, in my opinion. And then a couple other stats here. He has the most road wins of any FBS coach in the last 4 years. So he's very good on the road. He's able to get his guys ready for that pressure of being on the road and in the SEC. That is a large task. That is a big task. It's a big job to go win on the road in the SEC. So we'll see if that's able to translate, but that is a good stat that he has there. And he, like I said, his teams are just built like SEC teams. He has the SEC mentality. This is somebody who Auburn wanted. I believe this was Auburn's first choice, but when we realized that we were kind of the Gators were starting to trail off of Lane Kiffin, or Lane Kiffin was starting to trail off of us and go to LSU, our attention turned over here to to Jon Sumrall, and Auburn had to kind of take a step back and maybe reevaluate things and go after Golesh. So it kind of created a domino effect where we took Sumrall from Auburn, and then Auburn took Golesh from Arkansas, and then Arkansas had to go after their second choice. And yeah, so it's just interesting to see how the tiers of the SEC can kind of work there. Overall, great hire. In my opinion, I think the next best hire outside of this number 1 guy we know who is going to be here. But yeah, the next best guy, I think it was a good pivot, a good adjustment from Florida, and I'm looking forward to see what he does next year. So first up, number 1, the best hire. It hurts me to do, but it is Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin was by far the best hire that out of this process. You can say what you want about him. I say it too. He is a snake. He does turn his back on the programs that he bounces from. He bounces from team to team a lot. He can't get his bearings in really anywhere without some rumors. He would have jumped ship from Ole Miss last year at Auburn. This is somebody who he never viewed Ole Miss as a final destination, and Ole Miss fans really never picked up on that for some reason. He's very snaky. He doesn't show a lot of loyalty. Him as a person, I don't think he's a bad person. I just think he's kind of an asshole, and his personality definitely lacks something. And here at LSU, though, this was the best hire that they could have made. I mean, he's the most experienced coach in this cycle by far. I don't really have to go through his resume. It's pretty fantastic. Bouncing from the Raiders, he's already coached in the NFL before, going over to Tennessee, going over to USC where he was fired from, but then rebounding at FAU, and then taking that FAU experience, and coming back, and his journey has been the best out of all of these guys. He has a fantastic career record as head coach. He is a brilliant offensive mind. He's a fantastic recruiter. And at LSU, this is the best hire that they could have made. Now, there are a couple negatives about Lane Kiffin, and that it's, he's like I said, he's kind of snaky. The loyalty issue, if the Alabama job opens up anytime soon, which I don't really see it opening up, but you never know, I guess, with today's atmosphere. But if DeBoer, for whatever reason, has a departure from Alabama, I do think he would leave LSU for that job, or at least try to get that job. That is a job he's always wanted. And then also, if the NFL comes calling, I do think that if the NFL comes calling, he could jump ship from LSU still. I don't think he views any spot he's in as a final destination. He's very willing to change. He's very willing to move teams. He's done it a lot throughout his career. And I think that is something to look out for here. And thank you guys for watching.